The dorm room death. The Lily Carter mystery. It was a quiet Friday morning at Briarwood University. The kind of morning when the world feels ordinary. When the sound of coffee brewing in dorm kitchens blends with the rustle of backpacks and the hum of early lectures. But inside room 213 of Maple Hall, silence was the only thing that answered the knock on the door. At 8:42 a.m., Lily Carter's roommate, Hannah Lee, returned from an early class, only to find the door slightly ajar. The room smelled faintly of lavender and something else, something metallic. Lily was still in bed, eyes closed, face calm as if asleep. But the stillness wasn't peaceful. It was final. Lily Carter was a 21-year-old psychology major, known for her bright smile and quiet confidence. Her friends described her as kind, deeply curious, and always carrying her camera, capturing moments, people, and secrets. But what police found in that dorm room wasn't just tragedy. It was confusion. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle. Her laptop was gone, and a page from her notebook had been ripped out. On her desk, a half-written note. "If anything happens to me," and it ended there. At first, investigators suspected a medical episode. But Lily's family insisted she was healthy. No heart issues, no medication, nothing unusual. Then came the first red flag, the time of death. The coroner's estimate didn't match the last activity on her phone. Her messages stopped at 12:16 a.m., yet her smartwatch recorded movement until 2:47. Someone else had been there. When detectives reviewed hallway surveillance footage, they discovered something disturbing. At 2:12 a.m., a shadowed figure entered the dorm's east corridor. No clear face, no ID swipe, just a dark hoodie and gloves. The figure disappeared into the direction of Lily's room and was never seen leaving. Students began to whisper. Some said it was her ex-boyfriend, Ryan Mitchell. Others believed it was someone from the psychology lab she worked in. But one detail changed everything. When Lily's body was examined, the pathologist noted faint bruising around her wrist, small, almost invisible. The kind you might not notice unless you were looking for it. And her fingernails had traces of silver paint. There was no silver paint in her dorm room. As news spread across campus, questions began to build faster than answers. Who was the figure in the hallway? What was on the missing laptop? And who or what was Lily afraid of? Detectives would soon uncover a text message from her ex, sent just hours before her death. "You shouldn't have done that, Lily." But when questioned, he denied sending it, because phone records showed something strange. That message was sent after Lily was already dead. In the days after Lily Carter's death, the campus of Briarwood University changed. Students whispered in cafeterias. Professors canceled classes. And outside Maple Hall, cameras lined the street, the kind of chaos no small college ever prepares for. At the center of it all was one name, Ryan Mitchell, Lily's ex-boyfriend, the last person known to have argued with her, and the sender of that haunting message. "You shouldn't have done that, Lily." Ryan was a senior engineering student, smart, quiet, with no criminal record. He told detectives he hadn't spoken to Lily in weeks. Their breakup, he said, was mutual. But investigators soon found something different in her text history. Messages deleted, photos missing, and a voicemail timestamped just 3 hours before she died. It was Lily's voice, shaky, emotional. "Ryan, please stop. I don't want to do this again." She never said what this was. When detectives searched Ryan's dorm, they found a half-empty box of silver spray paint, the same kind of metallic pigment discovered under Lily's fingernails. He swore it was for an art project, but no art supplies were found. And that wasn't all. Security footage revealed Ryan entering Lily's building at 11:58 p.m. He claimed he was only returning a book, but he couldn't explain why he left through the back stairwell 17 minutes later, the same direction where the hooded figure had disappeared on camera. Campus police detained him for questioning. For 7 hours, he maintained his innocence. No confession, no breakdown, just one strange sentence before they released him. "If you think she's innocent, you didn't really know her." The statement confused investigators. What did he mean by innocent? While Ryan became the prime suspect, forensic teams finally got results from Lily's autopsy. Cause of death: respiratory failure induced by an unknown substance. But here's where things turned. The toxicology report didn't match any known drug. It showed traces of a compound used in neurological research, a compound only available inside Briarwood's psychology department labs. Lily wasn't a science student. Ryan wasn't either. But her lab partner, Dr. Evan Miles, was. Ryan's case began to unravel. The silver paint, the text, even his timeline, all suspicious, but not enough for an arrest. Still, the real question wasn't who killed Lily, it was why. And that answer, police would later learn, might not be about love or jealousy, but about a secret experiment Lily had stumbled upon. Because days before her death, she had sent an email to her professor. The subject line read, "Something's not right in the lab," and that email vanished from the university's server. Ryan Mitchell was released without charges. But as investigators turned toward the psychology department, one thing became clear. Whatever Lily had uncovered, someone didn't want it exposed. And the person who deleted her email wasn't Ryan. When detectives reopened Lily Carter's university email account, they expected to find the usual class schedules, study notes, maybe a few reminders from friends. What they found instead was an empty inbox. Every message she sent in the last 2 weeks of her life had been deleted, except for one, a draft that had never been sent. It read, "They said it's harmless, but after what I saw today, I don't believe them anymore." The draft was timestamped 2 hours before her death. The they Lily mentioned referred to a team inside Briarwood's psychology department. She had volunteered for what the university called a behavioral cognition study, a harmless experiment on sleep patterns and short-term memory. But the project's lead researcher, Dr. Evan Miles, had a very different reputation. Former students described him as brilliant, but secretive. He often held after-hours experiments, sessions that didn't appear on official schedules. And every one of them required participants to sign unusually strict non-disclosure agreements. When police questioned Dr. Miles, he was calm, cooperative, even. He claimed Lily had only attended 2 sessions, that she quit after feeling uneasy. But when investigators requested the study logs, they were gone. 3 months of digital records, wiped clean from the department server. The university's IT team traced the deletion to Miles' login credentials, used at 3:14 a.m., just 5 hours after Lily's death. When asked to explain, Dr. Miles said only, while authorities sought a warrant, students began speaking out. One girl, Emma Brooks, came forward anonymously. She said Lily confided in her days before she died. "She told me she found a file with her name on it, something about neurochemical compliance tests. She said she wasn't supposed to see it." Emma didn't know what that meant, but when she asked Lily to show her the file, Lily said she'd already turned it over to someone she trusted. She never said who. 2 days later, before police could question Dr. Miles again, he disappeared. No resignation, no forwarding address. His car was found abandoned outside a gas station 20 miles from campus. The keys were still in the ignition, and in the trunk, a folder marked Confidential Project Helix. Inside were signed consent forms, including one with Lily Carter's name. But the forms listed something strange in the test substance column. Compound HN47, a synthetic chemical banned in human trials nearly a decade earlier. After reports of severe neurological side effects, the toxicology report on Lily's body was re-examined. Traces of HN47 were found in her bloodstream. Not enough to kill immediately, but enough to cause hallucinations, seizures, or respiratory failure if mixed with alcohol. And according to her roommate, that night, Lily had been drinking wine, alone in her dorm. What began as a tragedy had now become something darker. A scandal wrapped in academic secrecy, professor on the run, a missing research file, and a young woman who may have died not from heartbreak, but from science that was never meant to exist. But investigators still didn't know who deleted her emails, Who leaked the study logs? And most of all, who was the someone she trusted with that hidden file? Because 3 months later, a USB drive would arrive at the local police station. No return address, just one label. For Lily. 3 months after Lily Carter's death, a small padded envelope appeared at the Briarwood County Sheriff's Office. No name, no fingerprints, just 3 words scribbled on the front. For Lily. Confidential. Inside was a silver USB drive. Detectives thought it was another tip, maybe a prank. But when the tech team plugged it in, the screen flickered, and a single folder appeared. Project Helix, Session 3. Inside were 3 video files, each less than 5 minutes long. They were dated October 10, 2021, just 2 days before Lily was found dead in her dorm. The footage began in what looked like a dimly lit university lab. Fluorescent lights hummed. A woman's voice, calm, shaky, read off her name for the record. Lily Carter, age 21, participant 27A. Across the room, a male voice responded, unmistakably that of Dr. Evan Miles. Okay, Lily, let's continue where we left off. Just focus on the pattern on the wall. The video showed a projection, a spiral of flashing lights pulsing across a blank wall. Lily's pupils dilated rapidly. She looked confused, disoriented. Then Dr. Miles stepped into frame, holding a small inhaler-like device. He said it was a focus aid. Lily hesitated. Wait, I thought we weren't supposed to. The rest of her sentence was cut off as the screen glitched. When the video resumed, Lily's head was slumped forward. Her breathing was shallow. Dr. Miles looked directly into the camera and whispered something almost inaudible. They'll never trace it. The next clip was even worse. The timestamp read 1:37 a.m. the same night. The room was empty except for the lab chair and a black duffel bag. Dr. Miles appeared again, placing items inside it: latex gloves, glass vials, a folder labeled HN47 trial logs. He looked straight into the camera again. She wasn't supposed to react that way. Then, just before the video ended, a second person entered the frame. Their face was obscured by a hoodie. The unknown figure handed Dr. Miles a small object, a student ID card. When investigators froze the frame, they confirmed what no one wanted to believe. The card belonged to Lily Carter. Forensics later confirmed the footage was authentic, time-stamped, untampered, and recorded inside Briarwood University's psychology lab. The files were encrypted using Dr. Miles' personal login credentials. But what shocked investigators most wasn't the videos themselves. It was what came after. Hidden deep in the drive's metadata was a 4th file, deleted but partially recoverable. It was an audio recording. Lily's voice. If anything happens to me, tell my sister to check the locker at the old library. He said it's over, but I think he's watching me again. Please, just don't trust them. The recording ended abruptly with a faint sound. A door creaking open, then silence. Lily's sister, Megan Carter, was tracked down 2 days later. When police searched the old library, she mentioned, they found a locker hidden behind a maintenance panel. Inside, a journal sealed in plastic. On the first page, written in shaky ink, were the words, "Project Helix is not a study. It's a cover-up." The USB had done more than reopen the case. It changed its direction entirely. The focus was no longer just on Lily's death, but on what she discovered before she died. Was Project Helix part of an unauthorized human experiment? Was Dr. Miles the only one involved? Or was the university itself complicit, hiding the truth for funding or something even worse? Because if Lily's recording was real, then someone else still out there knows exactly how she died. And they made sure the world would never find out until now. 2 days after the USB drive surfaced, detectives followed the clue Lily Carter left behind in her final recording. Check the locker at the old library. That library, long abandoned after a fire in 2004, sat on the edge of Briarwood University. Its halls empty, its walls cracked, its windows sealed shut with plywood. Inside, behind a false maintenance panel, they found what Lily had hidden: a plastic-wrapped journal, sealed with electrical tape, its pages water-stained but still legible. And what was written inside would completely change the investigation. The first few entries were ordinary class notes, sketches, thoughts about exams and friends. But by the middle of the journal, something shifted. Lily's handwriting grew uneven. Words ran off the lines. On one page, written in capital letters, "Project Helix is not what they say." Then, underlined 3 times, "They're watching the participants outside the lab." Lily described how her dreams had changed after joining Dr. Evan Miles's cognitive focus study. She mentioned blackouts, moments where she'd lose time, waking up in different parts of campus with no memory of how she got there. "He said it's normal," she wrote, "but I saw him inject something into the diffuser," said it was lavender oil. "It smelled like metal." Lily wasn't the only one. She mentioned 2 other students, participant 14B and participant 19C, who dropped out suddenly. Both withdrew from school within a week. Neither left forwarding addresses. The journal took an even darker turn near the end. One page read like a confession. "I found the files on his computer. There were recordings of every session, not just mine. Some of them weren't volunteers. Their eyes, they didn't look awake." On the final page, one last line stood alone, smeared as if written in panic. "If I disappear, look in room 214. Room 214 was located in the west wing of Briarwood's psychology building, the same wing that had been closed for renovations since 2019. When detectives arrived, they found the door locked, bolted from the inside. After forcing it open, they stepped into a room that hadn't been touched in years. Dust-covered equipment filled the corners, brainwave monitors, oxygen tanks, empty vials. But it was what they found behind a cracked wall tile that made one detective step back in shock. A hidden compartment containing a small voice recorder and 3 student ID cards. One of them belonged to participant 14B. The device contained a single 4-minute recording. First just static. Then, a woman's voice, trembling, whispering. "He said the trials were safe, but it's not therapy, it's testing. We're not supposed to wake up this soon." Then, abruptly, a crash. The sound of a chair falling. A male voice shouting, "Turn it off, now!" The tape ended. Forensics confirmed the voice belonged to Evelyn Moore, a graduate assistant who had been reported missing 3 years before Lily's death. She was one of Dr. Miles's earliest lab technicians. The evidence was no longer pointing to a tragic suicide. It was pointing toward a pattern. Multiple disappearances, unreported experiments, and a trail of cover-ups that stretched across years of university funding and private research grants. When police tried to bring in Dr. Evan Miles for questioning, he was gone. His office cleared out. Laptop missing. Last seen driving out of Briarwood County 2 nights before the USB arrived. No forwarding address. No trace. Only one email found in his inbox, sent to an encrypted address. The subject line read, "Containment compromised." Lily's journal didn't just tell her story. It exposed the possibility of something much larger. A secret psychological program operating under the guise of academic research. Project Helix wasn't about focus or cognition. It was about control. And now, investigators had to face a chilling question. If Lily Carter's death was the price of silence, how many others paid it before her? For months, investigators believed the Lily Carter case had reached its end. A dead professor, a secretive research group, and a university desperate to erase its tracks. But then, a single encrypted file, buried deep inside Lily's old laptop, changed everything. Its name, heirloom_13. At first, analysts thought it was just corrupted data, a jumble of letters, timestamps, and broken code. But when the FBI's cyber unit ran it through a linguistic algorithm, something emerged. Hidden inside the binary sequence were words, and those words formed a message, written in Lily's own style. "If you're reading this, it means they found me. But what they don't know is that I found them first." The file wasn't just a message. It was a map, a digital trail linking Lily's communications to a network of academic grants and private investments. At the center of it all was a single corporate entity, Helix Dynamics, a shell company registered in Delaware owned by an offshore trust and connected to none other than Axiom Initiative. But here's where it gets chilling. Helix Dynamics wasn't just funding research. It was owning results. Every psychological experiment, every biometric test, every volunteer signature, all funneled into a database labeled Directive 9. And the earliest test subject? Dr. Evan Miles. Investigators discovered that years before teaching at Briarwood University, Dr. Miles was part of a classified study on emotional conditioning. He wasn't just a scientist, he was the first prototype. The project aimed to test how suggestive commands could alter behavior, not through hypnosis, but through neurological triggers tied to sensory cues. Colors, sounds, phrases. Lily found traces of those experiments in his files and in her own therapy logs. Her nightmares, her paranoia, her sudden mood changes, all documented after participating in what she thought was a sleep optimization study. She wasn't paranoid. She was being monitored. The deeper analysts went into the heirloom_13 file, the darker it became. Among the video fragments was one final clip, timestamped just 48 hours before Lily's death. The footage was shaky, handheld. Lily sat on her dorm bed, her voice trembling. "If anyone ever sees this, it's because I couldn't stop them. Dr. Miles isn't the villain. He's just another test. They wanted to see what would happen if he broke. If I broke. But they made a mistake. I copied the data." She looks straight at the camera, then whispers a name. The same name hidden in her encrypted code. Director Hall. The name shocked investigators, because Director Hall wasn't just a phantom executive. He was a real person, the registered founder of Helix Dynamics. And when his identity was finally confirmed, the case took its final, devastating turn. Director Hall was actually the alias of Evan Miles. Dr. Miles hadn't gone missing. He had gone underground. The video he sent to the journalist, the confession, wasn't a cry for help. It was a message planted to mislead, to bury the truth one last time. He was the experimenter. He was the fugitive. And perhaps, he was the man who ended Lily's life to keep the secret alive. The heirloom_13 file was later traced to an offshore data vault. When decrypted, it revealed thousands of files labeled with student initials, neurological data, and unapproved tests. But the most haunting part? The last entry was timestamped 2 days after Lily's recorded death. And the file's author ID? E.Miles_02, meaning someone was still accessing her data, even after she was gone. The case remains unsolved. Helix Dynamics dissolved quietly months later. Axiom Initiative rebranded under a new name. Its directors scattered, its assets hidden. Lily's family never received justice. Dr. Miles's body was never found. But her story, the warnings she left behind, live on. A message for anyone willing to see the truth. Not all experiments end in the lab. Some begin where we least expect, in the places we feel safest. For months, investigators thought the Lily Carter case was over, until a single encrypted file revealed everything they missed. A message Lily left behind in her final hours, hidden in code no one was meant to find. After the initial investigation collapsed, Lily's laptop sat untouched for months. But during a final audit, an analyst uncovered a corrupted file buried under layers of encryption. Its name was simple, chilling, and deliberate: heirloom_13. At first, it looked like meaningless binary. But when the FBI cyber unit reconstructed it, something formed inside the code. A message, written in Lily's own voice. "If you're reading this, it means they found me. But what they don't know is that I found them first." The file wasn't just a warning, it was a map. It traced Lily's research notes to a hidden funding trail. Shell companies, offshore accounts, and a network of psychological experiments. At the center was a corporation no one recognized, Helix Dynamics. A deeper search revealed its true owner, the same organization connected to the missing professor, Axiom Initiative. But the most disturbing connection was a name buried in the metadata of the earliest files. Investigators discovered that before teaching at Briarwood University, Dr. Miles had been part of a classified behavioral experiment known as Directive 9, not as a researcher, but as the first prototype. Lily's therapy notes, her sudden mood swings, her invasive nightmares, all began after she unknowingly joined what she believed was a sleep optimization study. It wasn't paranoia, it was a controlled response. Buried in the heirloom file was one more fragment, a video Lily recorded 2 days before her death. Her hands were shaking. She kept glancing toward her dorm door. If anyone sees this, it means I couldn't stop them. Dr. Miles isn't the villain, he's just another test. They wanted to see what would happen if he broke. If I broke. Then she whispered one final name, the same name hidden in her encrypted code. The missing professor, the grieving mentor, the man who vanished after Lily's death, was the architect of the entire program. The final blow came from the file's last entry, a data log timestamped 2 days after Lily's declared time of death, meaning someone, possibly Miles himself, accessed her encrypted data after she died. He wasn't just watching, he was still working. Helix Dynamics dissolved quietly. Axiom Initiative rebranded under a new name. Dr. Evan Miles was never found, and Lily Carter's family is still fighting for answers. The truth she uncovered, hidden experiments, manipulated behavior, and psychological conditioning, remains sealed away in private databases the public will never see. Lily Carter didn't just expose a crime, she exposed a system. One that doesn't need weapons or violence to control people, only fear, silence, and the right code. This was the conclusion of the Lily Carter mystery. And remember, the real crime is often the one hidden right in front of us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.